alive! It's alive! It's alive! It's alive!
Hello and welcome to Alive After Reading. I'm your host, the, slightly busy, slightly procrastination-styled Tim Niederreiter. I don't know if what I said was a word just now. Anyway, welcome to the podcast, and with me today is a returning guest, JP McLean. Welcome back.
Thank you, Tim. It's great to be here.
Oh, it's great to have you back. I mean, we've been having a lot of fun before we turned on the record button. It's been good. But... yeah. So tell the listeners a bit about your books and the sort of stuff you've got out there.
Okay, thanks. My name is JP McLean. That's my author name. My real name is Joanne. People spell it wrong all the time, which is why I use initials. And I am a urban fantasy and supernatural thriller writer. I have 2 series out. The first one is called The Gift Legacy, and it has 6 books in it, plus a companion book. And it's about a secret society of people who can fly and get into all kinds of trouble. Lots of fun. And the second series is the Bloodmark series. It's got 1 book out, came out last October, and it's doing really well. And I'm just going through the final editing phases of the second book, which is going to be called Ghostmark. And I remember, Tim, you and I talking before about how much you liked editing. Mm-hmm. I'm really enjoying the editing part now because I'm almost finished, almost done the second book.
Awesome. Yeah, I feel like I find when we last talked, I was really getting a hold of editing, and now I feel like I'm pretty good at it. It's weird. It's like I feel like I got the skill down a little bit now. Yeah. Anyway,
it's a consuming chore. I mean, to try to, you have to go back to the beginning and forget everything that you wrote, so that you can make sure you haven't jumped ahead in the story and missed something. Mm-hmm. And for me, I had to move some scenes around. So having to check to make sure, it's so hard. That's why it's so important to have somebody else also read your work.
Yes.
Catch those things that you miss.
Definitely. I mean, I think the thing I learned the most about myself when I was editing, though, because I feel like in the last year or two, the last few years since I started dictating, I learned to edit really a lot better in that time frame, because the dictation comes out so much rawer than typing for me.
Yeah,
but
I'm so envious of your dictating skills. So envious. I so wish I could do that. I need to teach myself and get to it.
Honestly, I think the main thing that helped me, this is a tangent, but the thing that helped me really get started on dictation was podcasting. Because I'm good at filling space and time with my voice. That's the thing I figured out. I learned to do that from years of podcasting, and so you could bend that to dictation. Otherwise, it wouldn't be nearly as useful to me. Because like I said, and if I look at notes, dictation isn't very useful to me. Like, it just comes out as a gunkier version of what I'd type. And about the same rate.
Wow. Yeah. Well, I've tried, and haven't tried enough, obviously, because I know you can get good at it if you try harder. And what I found was I got frustrated with not being able to come out with full sentences and having to go back in and edit. And I was almost taking more time editing my verbal transcript than I was if I would just write it from scratch. And I know that gets better. I know that there are so many people doing it now, yourself included, that it's got to eventually, well,
no, I actually don't know. I actually think 2 things about that. And this is not a Tim giving advice about dictation, but I think that the key word here is not to try harder, it's to try more. And the other key thing is to not expect it to get better. And if it's not, maybe get faster, but not better. It never got that much better for me. I mean, I'm sloppy as a dictator. I just really had to be patient and learn to be patient editing it.
Oh, okay. Well.
And also, try it without looking at a screen. If you're not looking at the words appear, it's much easier.
Oh, is it? Well.
That's what I never look at the words appear when I'm dictating. I dictate into a voice recorder. I'm usually not at a computer. It's really good. And it's really it's relatively healthy for me, too. I get 10,000 steps a day easy when I'm pacing around talking to myself.
Well, that's where I had tried it before, was walking and talking into my phone. But I found myself thinking ahead of time. And then by the time I started talking, my phone had gone dead again, and I had to reset my phone, and then I have to get my pacing.
Oh
back.
yeah, no, that is a challenge too.
Yeah.
I mean, I have a dedicated recorder for my needs there, but that might not be worth the investment if you're not sure. If you want to keep doing it. Anyway.
They used to have those recorders that you could use to dictate, like business people had those recorders they would dictate. So
I have a very nice, mine is a nice little device that has a USB port built into it, so I can just plug that into the computer. A USB, it can pop out a USB plug and then just plug right into the machine. Nice. Which is really, really cool. So, and it's its own integrated memory. It's like basically like one of those, it's a voice note device, but it's for the 21st century. Anyway, so JP, you've been getting some major recognition around the literary scene, so to speak. What have you been nominated for, and what's going on there? The awards and stuff.
I took a different approach this time. I ended up submitting my book for a number of different awards, and I think that is a function of being more confident, certainly in my writing. But I really felt good about this book. It felt so smooth for me writing it. I was really excited about it. So I did submit to a number of places, and I'm so pleased. I've received. I shouldn't say I've received. The book has received 2022 Global Book Award for Occult and Supernatural. It has received honorable mention in the Eric Hoffer Awards. It received, so far it's a finalist for the Chanticleer Paranormal Award for Supernatural Fiction, and that one will be decided in June. So, fingers crossed, it might escalate into a higher award. Mm-hmm. It also won a finalist position in the Wishing Shelf Book Awards, which are over in Britain. So that I was particularly proud of. And it's received a Roan Award nomination and a Gold Literary Titan Award and a Reader's Favorite 5-star award.
Wow. You got that's a lot of accolades you got there.
Yeah, it's been fun. It's been fun. And it's still in the running for a few. So, fingers crossed.
Oh, definitely. Yeah.
I got one. I know this is a podcast.
Yeah, this is audio only, but she's showing me. Oh, there's a medal.
Right, a medal. I got a medal from the Wishing Shelf Book Awards. So yeah,
nice.
That's the first time I've gotten a medal, and I'm just like, what do you do with it? I bid it. I thought that was what you're supposed to do.
Oh, like a pirate with a coin or whatever. Yeah, I just gotta make sure it's real.
But it's been a really fun thing to do, and. It's a good confidence booster if you're ever feeling like you're unsure of your writing. If you've got one of these things that you can look out on, you can, okay, all right, maybe a bad day today, but hey, I got an award yesterday. I'm good.
Absolutely. I've not submitted to a ton of awards, but I did submit before I ever published a story, I submitted one story, this one short story to Writers of the Future, and I got an honorable mention. And that was right before I started publishing. That was my first published thing. I was like, okay, so I didn't get picked there, but I'm like, I'm going to put this story. It's called Stolen Parts. It's about a necromancer in a small town. It's actually about a few necromancers in a small town, and there's a stolen heart involved. But anyway,
the honorable mentions are just the little pat on the back you need to keep going.
Exactly, it was really helpful.
Yeah. They're very helpful.
Because. It was, and it's funny how the little bit of confidence you get from something like that, and it's something I don't look back on it now very much, but when I think about it, I'm like, well, yeah, that story did earn its. I mean, that's an objective award in some sense. Somebody else thought this was good, and good enough anyway to give me an honorable mention, which is cool. And the Writers of the Future is very competitive, so I was pretty proud of that as well at the time. I mean, that's a big award. Even if it is tied in with L. Ron Hubbard.
And how's your writing coming along?
Oh, my writing, it's been going all right. I did stop dictating for most of 2021. But I got back to it now. It's a weird thing. Well, I went to typing for a while there because I thought it was more fun. And it is fun, but then it started for a while there. This is the weird part. For a while there, I was having a really good time, but then I got get psyched out by watching words appear on my screen, and I'm so used to not doing that I had to go back to dictation. It's just it drives me crazy. I mean, I can't stand to see like, oh, this, I know what the scene is supposed to be, or even that I don't know, because I am a discovery writer, and often I don't know what the scene's going to be like until I get there and am actually doing it. But yeah, no, it is a wild problem to have that I can't even look at my own rough draft basically while I'm making it. It's very it's not impossible, but it's very slow to do it that way for me now. Yeah. So back at dictation, working on a new series of short novels. So
good for you.
Fantasy novels space fantasy. So they're set in this kind of weird airship, spaceship environment. It's a binary star system contained in a crystal sphere. So it's one of the weirder settings I've come up with. And I say that as somebody who came up with the Pillar universe and a few other weird ones that haven't been published. But yeah, a Pillar universe. Now there's a weird one. But anyway, I've been over that a bunch, folks. Take a drink if you're one of those people who pays attention to whether or not I mention one of my older settings. So, or just the Pillar universe. Yeah.
Last time you and I talked, you had mentioned Blacklist on Netflix.
Oh yeah, the Blacklist.
I have since watched all of Blacklist.
Well, then you're ahead of me. I'm a few seasons behind. There's a lot of that show.
Yeah, there is. I really enjoyed it, and I think you also mentioned Name of the Wind.
Yeah.
Yeah, read that one.
Wow.
So annoyed that. That's it.
There's a sequel.
Is there a sequel?
Yeah, there's one sequel out. There's gonna be a trilogy, but there's one sequel out right now. It's called The Wise Man's Fear.
Oh, gee.
Glad I could help. Oh, and there's also a novella called The Slow Regard of Silent Things that's in the same setting by the same author.
The Wise Man's
Fear. The Wise Man's Fear by Patrick Rothfuss. A book that is a little bit of a broken base book as far as I'm aware. I haven't read it, but it's one of the ones that apparently there's a lot of stuff in it that's not as YA as the first book. And so his audience thought it was kind of strange. They did a weird reaction to it.
Oh, okay.
But I wonder if that's why, even though it's been 15 years or something like that he hasn't finished the series. He's doing like comics now and stuff, but he hasn't written that final book yet.
Oh, well, I got to the end of that one, and I thought, oh my god, it's like a giant cliffhanger. What happened? I have to know.
Oh yeah, did you know that was actually the first novel he ever wrote? It's very well written for that, all things considered. Yeah, even though I would say a cliffhanger like that is maybe a problem, but in a first novel, that's the least of your worries, for most people.
Oh, so true. Oh, so true.
Definitely was for me. I mean, my book doesn't end my first novel didn't end on a cliffhanger, but it did have a lot of problems. And it's never going to see the light of day.
I really don't like cliffhangers. I don't put them in my books at all. I just find they're, somebody's paid money for a story, and if your story doesn't have an ending, or if it ends in a cliffhanger, it's not my cup of tea. I want to know it before I go in.
Oh yeah, you come from the same school of thought as my twin brother. Absolutely. He gets annoyed. I think he read the first Hunger Games book because back when all that was going on, everyone was reading it. Everyone our age was reading it, and this is like 2012 or 2011, something like that. And he read the first book and said, "No, this ended on a cliffhanger. I'm not continuing the series." He just kind of accepted he just cut his losses right there, which in hindsight was probably a good idea. Anyway.
Well, I've had people say to me, especially since I write in series, I've had people say to me, I'm not going to buy the book until you finish the series.
Oh, yeah.
And the first series, I put a book a year out, so it took a while to get that first series out. Mm-hmm. And so when it was finished, of course, I'd go back and say, okay, you can get them now. It's all done. And then you have other people saying, what? What do you mean you're done? But it's done. It's finished.
Well, that's a nice place to be, though. I mean, seriously, being able to, if you finished, is really good. And sometimes you can get the best of both worlds because you could do another series in the same world, or even with the same characters, and just kind of with a new name on it, or continue the series at a much later date. However much later it needs to be. I know. Yeah, go on.
I started a short story based on the book, thinking that I would write a Christmas novella that I could offer to my subscribers for a little gift for Christmas time. And it was hilarious because I started 3 times. The first time, the book is, I still have it and I will eventually finish it, but it was it would have ruined the series for anyone who read the novella. So I thought that's not a very good thing to do. And then the second one I started 3 times because it was supposed to be a Christmas novella, but it starts with these children's mother dying.
Well, that could be a Christmas story. I mean, come on.
Well, it did turn into a Christmas story for sure. But yeah, sometimes I tell you, the spin-offs are, I have another spin-off I might write. Short stories aren't my strong suit, I got to tell you. I like reading them, but trying to get a story that's entertaining in a small package is, I find, to be quite a challenge. I think short story writers are enormously talented.
Oh, I agree, and it's funny because now I'm realizing that because I mean this not novel series I mentioned that I'm writing now, the short novels. I thought, oh, these are going to be novellas. They're going to be 100 pages long, and then I'm like, no, they're going to be at least twice that long each. What am I doing? I made my world too weird. Now I have to explain all this stuff. Now there's too many characters. It looks like they're tripling in length, which is fine because, I mean, that's the beauty of being an independent author is I don't have to worry about how long it is. And as long as they're all kind of the same length, that'd be fine.
Yeah.
But,
yeah, this one is just a small, it's maybe 200 pages. But I did set it in the same setting as the Gift Legacy series.
Oh.
So they walk by your house, and it's people, unless they've read the Gift Legacy series, they won't know. But if they hear the red MGB in the driveway, they'll know they're in the same setting.
Oh, that's cool. And I gotta say, there's one of my favorite fantasy authors, Joe Abercrombie, did that a lot. He has like maybe he has 9 books in the setting now, but they're in 3 different series, and one of them is a very loose series. The one in the middle is like 3 standalone novels. And yeah, anyway, really cool. This is the first trilogy. There was the First Law trilogy is actually what it's called. But I'm not sure if I'd recommend it to everyone because it is extremely dark. It is dark fantasy. Like Game of Thrones level of how bleak it is. But it's more fun than Game of Thrones, I'd argue. I couldn't get through the books of Game of Thrones, as people know. Those were too miserable for me. I mean, there's a certain... And let me ask you, because this is kind of supposed to be an interview at some level. Do you have any, peeves like that are like, when I'm reading a book and I get to the point where the characters are just suffering and it's all horrible and everything sucks, I kind of check out. I don't want to read a book where nothing good happens. You know, is there anything? Do you have anything like that going on with how you're reading?
I would have to agree. I think there has to be some light shining in there somewhere to keep people's interest. I remember my husband and I just started watching. Well, it was a year or so ago. The Yellowstone series that's so popular. And we probably watched the first 2 or 3 episodes, and we'd look at one another and say, there isn't a redeeming feature to be had in these characters. Why is it so popular?
Yeah.
Of course, it did get brighter as it went on. It got more exciting. But I am like that with books, too. And I've got to the age where I don't actually continue reading a book if I'm not enjoying it. I won't have to get to the end. If it doesn't catch me, I would say I'll give it maybe the first third of the book. That's how much you get. And if I'm not enjoying it,
that's very generous if you ask me, depending on how long the book is too. Yeah, it can be very reasonable.
It's it's all so subjective. At different points in your life, different things are interesting to you. And so just because I didn't finish the book now doesn't mean I'm not going to finish it 2 years from now.
Right.
But I don't give it a lot of time anymore.
Yeah, fair enough. I mean, I've become quite picky with my books, but also I've been reading a lot more lately, thanks to actually my phone and the Kindle app on my phone. It's very weird. I mean, I just like reading on a little screen because I don't feel like I'm brutalizing a book with my big meaty hands.
I read on my phone too, on the Kindle app. I think it's just fine.
It's a nice little app, and it works. I mean, ever since I got a phone that was slightly larger than my phone's not big by any means. but the screen's just big enough that when I don't mind flipping the page a bunch. You know, if I'm turning a lot of pages, that makes me feel like I'm making progress. You know, it's helpful.
Yeah, I don't mind it at all. It's good. I'm a big fan of the ebooks because I do so much research looking for comp books that are like my own. So it's a lot easier for me to just whip through a bunch of them. Even downloading the samples sometimes is enough for you to get a sense of whether or not they're going to be like yours. And I have found a couple of good comps using that process. So yeah. It's
good. That's really cool. So what are you looking for? I mean, I guess what kind of books were you looking for when you compare for Bloodmark?
Well, for Bloodmark, I was looking for a few touch points that were the same. I wanted there to be the sense of a ghost because there's a ghost, and I wanted there to be a contemporary setting, female protagonist, because I think about the people who buy the books. If they're buying other books like it, they're going to like mine as well. So I try to find a few points that are close. So I did find E.E. Holmes, and I got in touch with her. She actually provided a blurb for the cover, and I was just absolutely thrilled because she is a big deal, and her books are fantastic. And then recently I found Annette Marie, Three Madges and a Margarita, the Guild Codex books, and they're fascinating. I love them. Like the kick-ass kind of lead woman that is strong enough and yet not obnoxious, because sometimes the lead characters can be obnoxious, you know, when they call themselves kick-ass. So yeah, I really enjoyed those two in particular. So I've been enjoying that process. I also read one recently. It's an older book, but I really loved it. I couldn't say it was like, I wish I could say it was like mine. Carrie Vaughn's Discord's Apple, which I don't think is one of her more popular books, but she brings in all of the old gods. You know, I don't know whether they were Roman or Greek gods, but she brings them all into the story, and it's just she weaves a magic story anyway. But that's another good one if you're looking for something that's a little unusual.
Yeah, I've heard good things about Carrie Vaughn for sure. Yeah. So I'm though actually it's kind of funny because I recently did get a print book, and that's kind of the weird thing. It's been kind of strange. I'm like, I don't know what I should do with this. It's like an arcane object. But I recently had to get a print book because I was just curious what it'd be like. This particular one, and it's because it's written by a couple. I think they're Ukrainian authors. And they're two brothers, and this was back in the 70s, I think they wrote this, because Ursula K. Le Guin, the famous grandmasters of science fiction, she has the foreword written, and there's also a preface or whatever she wrote. But this is a book called... impressive. And this book is called, what is it called? Roadside Picnic. And it is a science fiction novel, and it is insane. It is so weird. And very influential. It is almost as influential. I would say it's about as influential as something like the work of H.P. Lovecraft to current fantasy and science. Yeah, and at least relatively speaking, because there's like video games and stuff based off this book or inspired by this book, and there's movies and there's a lot of things that come because it's all about this. I'm just fascinated by the concept because the concept of the Roadside Picnic is that aliens arrive on Earth. The aliens appear on Earth. And then they leave. They just appear briefly in a few places around the Earth, and then they're gone. But they leave relics and things behind from their visit, and it's just called The Visit. I haven't read that much of the book yet, but The Visit is this. But then these are now exclusion zones, so they have to keep people out because this is really dangerous stuff that they left behind. The aliens kind of left behind right after their quote unquote roadside picnic, because it's like we're the ants poking through Coke cans and stuff that a person left on the side of the road after a picnic, and so it's horror and it's science fiction and it's really strange, and like the Stalker games for the PC, this shooter franchise was based off this stuff where you play as a character sneaking into one of these exclusion zones and has to deal with all the mutants and weirdos and freaks and things inside. Yeah. Every time we have a conversation, I end up with more and more books I have to check out. Well, that's kind of part of the show. I mean, it happens. No, it's great. It's great. I love good book suggestions, and you've got some good ones.
I've liked a lot of the stuff that you suggested. So.
Well, great.
Good fit.
Yeah, I mean, anyway, Bloodmark. We haven't talked a whole ton about the book, but I mean, I feel like there's been so much else to say.
Oh, that's yeah. Well,
Catching up after such a long time, you know.
I'll give you a quick summary. It's about a woman who's born with a very disfiguring birthmark that goes around her, wraps around her body. It's red, and it looks like a pattern. That there's a pattern in it, and she discovers that she wants to have it removed, of course, like most people would if they had something like that. But she goes to the university to deliver flowers, which is her day job, and the professor sees the mark, and that's when it starts to unravel, and she starts to realize it isn't a birthmark at all. It's a blood mark, and it was given to her as part of an Inca ritual, and it's protecting her, and someone's trying to kill her. So she has to figure out who it is that's after her, because the mark starts to slowly disappear, chunk by chunk. So that's what that story's about.
Oh, that sounds suspenseful. That sounds really cool.
Yeah, it's got some suspense in it for sure, because there's a countdown in it to when the last mark disappears, and it's protecting her. So once it's gone, so is her protection. So it's pretty. It was fun. It was fun to research a little bit of Inca mythology and try to make that meld into something that kind of just skirts on the edge of what might have been true.
Yeah, I haven't heard a ton about Incan mythology. I think it was the Inca that I heard Gail Carriger talking about one time, about how they would keep, guinea pigs for food. They would keep them in their floors, though. These Inca warlords would keep them in their fortresses as a food source. But that means their floors would chatter and hum because they're little loud little bunnies.
Oh, I didn't know that. Leave it to Gail Carriger to think of that.
Well, she's an architect, not an architect. She was an archaeologist. That's right.
Yeah, she's fascinating.
Yeah, definitely. I've been lucky enough to have her on the show. I'm very pleased with that chat. Yeah. About her book, the Heroine's Journey, which I can't stop referencing in my everyday life because I'm a nerd. But anyway, it just came up yesterday again. Anyway. I gotta say though, it's been a lot of fun having you on the show again. But and we have talked a lot about the books we've been reading, and I've given you some recommendations. You've given the folks some recommendations. Let's put it that way. But I have one more question for you, and I mean, because we're running a little low on time, this show does run ever so short. But hey, it's the only way I can do it. I have the ADHD. Anyway, so my one question left is, what next? Is this going to be a trilogy? Are there going to be or longer? What are you looking at for this series? I guess. Yeah,
3. There's going to be 3 for sure.
Okay.
The second one leads to it. Like I did from the very beginning. I had envisioned 3 books, and the third one is it's starting. I'm just starting to write some notes down that are follow-throughs. As you're editing, you say, okay, I can follow that through in the next book, and I can follow that through. So yeah, there's definitely going to be 3. I don't know if it's going to go beyond 3. At this point, I'm only planning 3.
Okay, well, we will see, folks. We'll keep your eyes out for Bloodmark and Ghostmark. That's the second book coming out?
Second one's
You're working on?
Yep.
Oh, getting close to finishing up. And the third book, To Be Determined. At least you didn't mention the title yet. What is it?
I'm thinking Scorchmark.
Ooh, okay. Well, now we're getting a little more gritty feeling there.
Yeah, I like that one.
Get it? Oh, that's awesome. So
but yeah, Bloodmark, check it out. Had a lot of fun writing it, and it's pretty cool.
Awesome. Where can people find you online, JP?
jpmcleanauthor.com, and from there you can get everywhere. Where if you're interested in buying it, you can pick it up from those links or find it on all the usual retailers.
All right. It's been great chatting with you. It's so fun. I'm actually really, I'm kind of just buzzing right now. I'm like, oh, it's always great to have a fun conversation, but there's something about catching up with someone who feels kind of like an old friend at this point is really fun. Really good time.
Oh,
Thank you so much. And as for this podcast, you can find us at mentalcellularpublications.com, and you can find more of my books at timniederreiter.com/books. Oh, and of course, I am T Niederreiter, I think. Geez, I need to remember what my actual... At T Niederreiter is my Twitter handle, and from there, you'll be able to find my Patreon and all that sort of thing. And right now, I just want to tell you, if you like hearing my voice, which I mean, I guess you might, if you listen to this whole episode... But you can find more daily podcasts by me on my Patreon feed, and they're free. But, yeah, that's the warm-up over there on Patreon, where I just talk into a microphone to warm up my voice before I get to the major dictation of each day. All right. Thanks for listening, everybody. Sorry if that was a lot of plugs, but, there's new stuff happening. This is the first time I've been plugging the warm-up, so I may not do it every week, but I'm going to do it sometimes. Thanks for listening, everybody. Thanks once again, JP McLean. And I will talk to you again next week. Stay safe out there, and don't lose hope, folks. It's going to be a rough time, I think, for a lot of us. But if you hang in there, things will get better. I promise. Have a good one, folks, and talk to you again next week.
That tears it.